Hello, this is Matt with my 11th layout update from October 2016. In this one I'm going to start widening the roadbed, sub-roadbed, south of Circleville to accommodate a second track. My intention is to temporarily make this layout into an oval. Here I'm fitting a spline in place. These splines, the new ones rather, are all a bit high because of the way I'd originally created my bench work. All my risers through this section are set intentionally high because my method then was to build a little bit high and put the sub-road bed on top of it, then put some sandpaper between the risers and the sub-road bed and kind of sand it down to the right level. That turned out to be a silly idea, so I've stopped doing it that way. But the legacy is I need to notch my new splines to get them to fit flush on the top. So that'll affect the next 3 splines in place. Not a great big deal, but with laser levels nowadays, there's no reason to work yourself into at the right elevation. Just set it there and move on. The purpose of this, double tracking this so that I can do a bypass around Circleville, which would be another video that'll tie into this and turn what was a loop-to-loop into a straight oval, like I said, at least temporarily. Now, one compromise I had to accept when adding this second track is that the left-hand side of this loop is already at my minimum radius of 30 inches. The right-hand side is much wider, but it decreases in radius as it goes from right to left and then downhill to staging. So to partly mitigate that, one of the additional splines I need to add 4 total, is on the outside, on the left-hand side of the screen. That'll give me another ½ inch radius curve. Won't completely get rid of the issue. I'll still be at like 28 and a half inch radius on the inside. That should be manageable. Here I'm fitting the second track at a proper center to center distance to make sure that the stagger of the new spline will give enough support to it. One thing to keep in mind when you're constructing with Homoso, when you're bending it, is there are limitations to the material. It's not tremendously strong when in flex. But if you're careful about your bends, you never have any problem with it. I think I've broken maybe 3 splines total in this layout. You'll see an example here. If you spread that bending load over the entire length of it, you'll have no problem. Or if you use a form board like you see me use before, we have no problem. But if you give it a single pressure point, it will break. So here you see my left hand. I try to bend it right there. Sometimes you get away with that. This time I didn't. So the way to make sure you don't have that problem is to here clamp it on one end, and then the rest of that 6 feet, I grab one end and force the like stringing a bow, force it into the existing roadbed by spreading that bend load out over the entire length of that 6 feet. Okay, now we'll work our way up towards Circleville, do some final fastening, and then once that's complete, I'll start laying some track. Nice way to complete the evening. To fasten the track, I'm using track nails set beside the ties. It's kind of a temporary fastening that allows me to scoot the rail back and forth as need be. I need to do some minute adjustments. It's a good place to call for night, so move on to the next day with a different view. From this angle, you can better see the stagger as the new splines are added to allow for an easement into the new curve. And then we'll do a quick level across the surface to make sure I haven't introduced any slope into the roadbed, which is sometimes easy to do once it gets this wide. That's the clinometer application for the phone. It comes in pretty handy. A little more sensitive than just a bubble level. Next we'll shoot some long screws through, 3½ inch in this case, to tie this wide roadbed together. I'll do that in a few spots, and driving these long screws is where it comes in, where the previous marking of shorter screws comes in handy, so you don't drive one on top of the other. That'll give it a nice firm foundation, everything will become a single unit, and be ready to move on. As always, make sure you have a clamp right around the place where you're driving the screws so it doesn't push anything out of alignment. Sometimes the splines will choose to find different levels once you start driving a screw through them. And thanks for watching.